and welcome to UK Versus. We are back from Vegas. I am Brett Demo Mode Pendragon. I am once again joined by Richard Window Seat Plumber, and he is fresh off a LQ event. So, how have you been for the last week, Richard?
Yeah, I'm all good. I'm still knackered because I'm an old man, and it takes me a good month to get over jet lag. I also refute the claim of window seat. I did not have a window seat. I believe on one part of the journey I did. Out of our 4 flights, I think I had the window seat on one of them.
Well, so you gave up the window seat on the first part, which was
Days
technically yours,
exactly.
but then you had the aisle seats.
Yeah, it's not a window seat.
Yeah, and I
Anyway, yeah,
But yeah, that's fair. You had the aisle seat or the window seat, but yeah, you can refute it. The window seat is still staying there.
fair. But yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, we had our local qualifiers today. There were 7 of us. So we had, it was me on Toga 3, the boy on Toga 4. We had, I was on not Death, I was on Chaos. He was on Evil. We had a Tarbe on Death. We had a Mina 2 on Death. We had a Momo 3 on Life. We had a Fourth Kind on Order and Nagant on Air.
Then again, nice. Yeah. So you on the togas? You said you on death?
No, Chaos.
Yes. Yeah. Because you want to play. You want to play the Black Abyss.
Yeah, the good cards. Black Abyss, bought the dog. Standard stuff.
Yeah.
I won't spoil how it went because I did take a bunch of recordings today, and hopefully we can edit those together and have a little video just to show off my locals,
Yeah. I'll
which
give it a
hopefully will
go.
come up
I mean, I've got
soonish.
looking at the list. We've got a breakdown of the Attack and Titan mats, which is a brief one. Me looking over the demo video. One more for my last local qualifier before the next one tomorrow, and then a couple of box openings, and then
Mhm.
I've still got more to do, including like the big 9-person crossover episode we did in Vegas, which I've started editing.
Okay.
But for those who have been living under a rock or may not be aware, last weekend was the inaugural Content Creator Summit. I hate Summit, but that's the way they word it. Conference in Las Vegas. Richard and myself were very lucky enough to be part of the people that were flown out there. There were 9 of us in total, and we got to sit down with UVS. We got to hear some presentations about what's coming in the future, what we can expect from UVS, and then we had a very long kind of roundtable content creator discussion where UVS gave us some input about what they would like to see individually and as a company. We had a lot of discussions back and forth between ourselves, and it was a very, very cool day. I think we traveled longer than the actual conference was there and back, but it was definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Overall, how are your feelings about the summer, Richard?
Yeah. I mean, it was exhausting, right? But it was worth it. I think, and the sort of the feedback I gave to US, but I think it's a great, and I think everyone else was the same. It was a great first step, right? Um, that and everything else aside, I think when you look at sort of people sort of criticizing UVS games, a lot of it is just hot air, right? And people getting narky about nothing, and just drama for drama's sake. And on that subject, I think if you go look at Richard Cruz's
Yeah,
channel, The
I mean,
Chamber.
I was about to say if we put a little pin in it, we're going to come to Richard Cruz and our opinion on what he was
Yeah,
talking about. We'll come back to
yeah,
that because he made some very good points. And I've actually been talking to him about it because he did make some very good points. Looking at the picture we've got on screen here, we've got Tyrell just bringing
mhm,
all the swag in that picture.
yeah. So yeah, Richard Cruz, aka Richard number one, and I'm Richard number two. Yeah, so I think that side. I think one of the valid criticisms is that communication has been lacking in general, right? And I think the summit was a good first step into sort of rebuilding those bridges and opening up those lines of communication, and getting things going in a positive direction from that step. So, I think almost the content aside, the fact that it happened in the first place, the fact that they're willing to sort of sit down at a table and have discussions with people, I think is a really good thing. Obviously, yes, it sort of sucks that everyone wasn't invited from a content creator perspective. But obviously, I can't speak to who got invited
Yeah,
and why some people. It could have been budget, could have been their lot of internal sort of metrics for determining that. I don't know, but hopefully it sort of opens up those lines of communication, sort of both between UVS and the content creators, UVS and the community, like the content creators amongst themselves. Obviously, it was good from a sort of I hate to use the word, but a sort of networking perspective. Sort of getting to hang out with those guys and just sort of just sort of chat with them and get to know them. Yeah, we got to record some content together, and you make sort of good friendships and these sort of things. So I think hopefully it's just sort of the first step in a good things to come.
yeah, and that's
And
just it. You might see if you go to our YouTube that I've already started implementing some of the things we learned through the round table.
mhm.
The thumbnails are starting to get better. There's more in depth descriptions, more in depth titles. It's because I'm trying to show that what we are actually taking away what we talked about, because I want this to happen more, and the best way to for this kind of thing to happen more is to show you, yes, that what we were talking about is being implemented, and
Yeah,
that it's probably why I have been going so hard with the content, like with the editing for this week, because I want to immediately start implementing everything that's been learned. Uh, my biggest takeaway, and it'll come up in the crossover episode as well, is as everyone keeps saying, this is a great first step. I would have really loved some definition as to how the lines of communication would be moving forward, other than making it a regular thing or talking about how when there's a PR, when the PR team gets settled, that works for that. It'd been good to have that kind of plan as to back and forth communication ready to go. But I'd rather under the same breath, I'd rather them tell us that when it's ready, rather than them telling us a half baked plan and having that fall apart.
yeah,
If
yeah. And I think also part of that line of communication has to be getting better with the community, right?
yeah.
And I hopefully that gets reciprocated, and that's again part of what Richard was talking about. In that, I think I
So I
think
did.
the
I sent a special email out asking if we could talk about certain parts of the actual things that had gone down that wouldn't be breaking NDA, but were still a bit iffy. And they asked us very nicely to not discussing anything on it, and we
Mhm.
might get a special guest out of it because of it. So
Okay.
future plans, future things. But we had three, four little things, well, four quite in depth things over the course of the day. We had a presentation by design under Bill Stark. Then we had a presentation under creative direction by Zoe McLemore. McManara, like
Mac I think it
McManara.
is.
And then we had, I forgot his surname. We had
Yeah,
Mike under sales.
yeah. Apologies, Mike. I didn't remember your surname,
Yeah, we
but
saw
there's a
Dunkirk.
Mike Dunham. I don't
Dun,
know.
we do apologize. I barely remembered Zoe's surname, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And then we had a big creative back and forth after that. We were supposed to have one-on-one demos and time with uh and some time with Paul, but unfortunately, we're just talking so much about content, we missed out on that.
Yeah, I mean, we had an opening sort of sort of presentation from Paul as well. So Paul Wachowski, one of the owners of the company, just sort of talking about the history of the game, where the game is now, and where they want it to be. And I think ultimately, obviously, there's a lot of stuff we can't talk about, right? And and everyone knows that, and everyone really wants to be, keyed in and what we talked about and wants all that info, and it's unfortunate we can't. But I think one of the biggest takeaways in terms of the content is that they obviously have big ambitions for the game, right? And those should align with what we want as players and content creators and everyone else. Like ultimately, that should be a symbiotic thing because they want the game to succeed. We want our game to succeed, right? We are aligned on that part, right?
Yeah,
So,
and our
and they
phone,
have big
our
ambitions in those.
yeah, and our phones had to go in these very cool Faraday cages, which I've got one here, where
Mhm.
no signals can get out or in. And they said at the end we could keep these if we wanted.
Oh, okay, I didn't keep mine. But yeah, they've got to say they've got big ambitions
Yeah,
and they're trying new things to try and further those ambitions. And ultimately, they've got the game and the players and the success of it at heart. Like sure, and they're taking bets, right? And that was sort of the way I sort of put it over the course of the weekend is that overall, when it comes to the future of the game, it's especially I guess more on Attack on Titan, they are taking bets. And I think any game, if it wants to grow and evolve and succeed in the market, that it has to. And when it comes to those sorts of bets that game design and product design and everything that take, not all of them are going to land. And I think you just sort of need to accept that. And if things are wrong, you just sort of need to feed it back constructively. I think again, plug the guy. I think Richard talks about this really coherently and well. I think it's just responding respectfully to that, and I think some of the changes we know and everyone sort of knows are going to be divisive, right? Not everyone's going to love them, but I think everyone should approach things with an open mind.
speaking
And
of willing to take risks, I was the most overdressed person out of the nine of us.
you
Uh,
absolutely were.
showed up in everyone else was there in jeans and shorts and t-shirts, and I showed up in a full proper iron shirt and pants, and I spent a fair bit of money putting together a smart and
Mhm.
casual outfit, but get to show off on the stream at least.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be too hot for anything but shorts, but
It wasn't
um,
too bad in all honesty. It wasn't too bad.
yeah, I mean, they had air conditioning, right? So it was
Yeah,
fine.
but yeah,
But yeah,
the welcome message and kind of like monologue from Paul talking about the history of UVS and uh, what it showed great in-depth research and respect for the history of the game. Uh,
mhm,
I did ask some cheeky questions about the 20th anniversary. They gave nothing away, but we did get a little thing of well, it's also the 10-year anniversary of the My Hero anime in 2026, so that's pretty cool as well.
mhm,
So that it was really
yeah,
cool to get the kind of back and forth. Really good to see as a newer player. I joined during MHA, similar same as you, to see the history and the evidence and uh, Shane Duckworth in his youthful era. Because we got a lot, we saw a lot of it now. Just seeing
mhm,
the actual impact of the history behind it and getting that kind of welcome, and then hearing where they want to take this game into the future and the ambition behind the statement, kind of like an anime protagonist, kind of like a Luffy, Asta, Deku sort of. I'm going to be the best. Is Paul saying we are going to be the best card game? That is our
mhm.
goal. Was very. It felt very anime protagonist to me, and it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
uh,
And yeah, like I say, they've got big ambitions, but part of it is they're very passionate about it, and they understand what they are doing, right? And like I think part of the benefit of being there in person was just to sort of have those humanizing conversations with people, right? I mean, take um, Bill Stark, right? He's I would say a somewhat divisive figure in the community, right? Um, and obviously had a lot of the memes when it comes to the mental load side of it, and um, and he takes all the stuff on his stride, right? As long as it's done tongue in cheek and just not being abusive and offensive about it. Like, he's quite relaxed about that sort of stuff. And part of that was just being able to have a conversation with the guy and sort of humanize the guy. And I think hopefully they can take that sort of message forward and maybe put some of that out into the community, right? Whether that is working with content creators to get them on camera and just have those sort of conversations with them. Whether that's just sitting down with like having like an interview with Levi, right?
Yeah.
Who's great for this sort of stuff, and just putting out some sort of content where it's not just words on a screen, it's people being able to talk. Whether that's like having like an ask me anything, whether that's like on like probably not Reddit because that's a toxic environment, but like just like a Twitch thing, just saying, ask me anything, and try and answer, and or maybe putting out a pre-recorded video sometime saying, look, you know, and just talking to the camera. I think would be really helpful, and just again humanizing these people, because that's part of I think what sometimes people just forget is that these are human beings, right? They've got feelings, they get things wrong, right? Because they're human, they're not robots, they're not just sort of sitting there at a company, sort of Scrooge McDuck style, wanting to wring the last dollar out of everything and not caring about anything. That's just far, far from the truth.
So you
Um,
brought up Reddit, and we've got Keenan talking about Reddit in the chat, and I was gonna like go through it the day chronologically, but we'll just skip bits.
mm,
After the meal, well, like everyone sat around and chatting, and we were talking about like IPs and how universities looks at IPs. And one of the things they do is they data scrape sites like Reddit looking for what's popular.
mhm,
And you get a lot of things like Has Been Hotel popping up, which is very popular at the minute. Things like Invincible. What's the other big one? I can't remember the other one big one other than Has Been Hotel was. But
mm,
we were talking about it. Anyway, there was some really interesting things in there. Psych was up there. He was like, "Yeah, Psych was up there." I had to explain. I was like, "Yeah, Psychos are insane." He's like, "Psychos?" I was
mhm.
like, "Yeah, that's what Psych fans are called. We're very dedicated. We're very crazy." Uh, because Psych is really, really cool. It's just hit Netflix in the UK, and it's got free movies, and it's got a dedicated fan base. So you'll see that popping up. Yeah, Has Been Hell of a Boss would be absolutely amazing to get in as a challenger. Hopefully, Vizzy Pop's open to communications, because hell yeah, we'd love to get a nice one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's one of the
Matt.
strengths of the game, right? In that it's an open system, and part of now we've sort of opened up past the MHA era. Um, that's what they can do, right? And yes, I fed back that I think there are problems with the challenger decks, right? Again,
Yeah,
just try to be constructive about it. I think everyone knows the sort of beefs
especially at the
with them,
price
but
point.
yeah, exactly. That's mainly it, right? But as a conceptual product, I think they're amazing in terms of being able to bring in these smaller IPs and test things out. Whether that's testing relationships with IP owners, testing the market and seeing what like the hunger is for that IP, testing see how the IP works in the game. I think it's a fantastic line to do that, and they can have these conversations, whether it's been like Has Been Hotel or whoever, and just say, hey, Paul and whoever else at the company can go and have a conversation with them and say, "Hey, do you want to? Can we work with you?" And I think we've got a lot more opportunity to do that than maybe some of the other sort of card games on the market. In that we can just slot stuff in. You just
Yeah,
get those big brains and design. If we get that contract with the IP owner, and then we get those big brains like Tim Friedley, who was at the content at the
who did
summit,
not like getting
and
his
everyone
picture
else in
taken.
design, just to get those in the game. And the more of these sort of IPs you can have that draw in players and get them to take that bite, right? Take that bite of the apple and get them involved in this game and everything we love about it. And I think that's one part of the equation of growing the game. The other half is something that Bill talked a lot about in terms of mental load, right? And that's that kind
Yeah,
of the meme of it, but it's that trying to everyone knows that playing this game is that it's not really a learning curve, it's a learning cliff, right? And then you kind of go up, and there's you get to a plateau, and then you kind of go up and up a bit from there, but there's a huge cliff to get over to begin with. And anyone who doesn't agree with that is frankly wrong. Like there is that cliff to get over, and just trying to step that right, and trying, and what they're trying to do is to make that cliff not as vertical, and get a player sort of invested in the game in terms of the initial conceptual side of it and the IP side of it, and letting them grow and learn that game and get into that point where they're actually they've developed those muscles in terms of playing. And I think that goal is a really positive one in general. And you do have to make certain sacrifices and changes to get them there. And the thing that obviously Bill and the rest of and Tim and the rest of the design team are juggling with is lessening that cliff while still keeping it the same game. And that was the big kind of takeaway from what Bill was talking about is trying that. And I think
It's interesting that that was your biggest takeaway. For me, I went in there to kind of get to know Bill because
hmm,
it's one of the only opportunities we're going to have to get there, and it's something I brought up a lot in other people's chat and like streams and videos. Is my goal when I saw Bill was on there was to try and get a feel out for the person. I asked
mhm,
about Anya, which I people knew I was going to do because in the article preceding this with the French vanilla cards, Bill put in there that the card designers don't design bad cards. Every card fills a role. So I asked Bill directly, "What is Anya's role?" And he directly said, "Anya is there for an ease of read for people who are fans of Spy Family to get their foot in the game. It's a basic to read kit card that they had very little turnover on, and they needed to get it out, so they had a point of diminishing return between making the card good and getting it out in time for the movie. And unfortunately, they didn't want to make it too overpowered. And
hmm.
it made sense, and that's the big thing I took away from my conversations with Bill is the same as what Kevin took away is Bill Stark is just a person. And not only is he just he's a gamer just like us. And to him, I don't mean this in any negative connotation whatsoever. UVS is his game. He is trying to crack that puzzle. He is trying
Hmm.
to find a way, like a strategy game, like Seven Wonders, Civilization, he Ticket to Ride. He's trying to get the design of this game into such an optimized position that it just flows and it works. And he's trying to crack that problem. And when he
Yeah, as he should,
talks, yeah,
right?
when
That's
he
his
talks,
position.
yeah,
And I think anyone in charge like that is always, they're going to put their own personal stamp on it because you can't not, because that's just what you do naturally, right? When you're it's certainly from a design, like, because designing a card game, like, there is artwork to it, right? You know, it's sort of an art form. You're putting your brain and your heart and your soul sort of into designing these cards. And Bill, as the lead of this stuff, right? There's he's going to put his stamp on things because a, he should as his position, but like that's just going to naturally happen. Um, and you know, if he leaves the company and someone else comes along and takes a position, they're going to put their spin on things. That's just how life
yeah.
works. Um,
But it's not
and but
always just
fundamentally,
going.
you know, it sounds like the from the you know the company, whether that's sort of at sort of Paul's level, whether that sort of relationship with Zoe and the creative team, and whether that all that Tim and the rest of the design team, it sounds like they're all aligned in terms of the vision, and I think that's important because if you've got the arms pulling one way and the legs pulling the other, then you're going to end up in a mess. And it's important that they're all aligned in what their vision is and what they're trying to achieve. And that certainly came across, I felt, in the summit, in that they're all aligned in what they're trying to do, and they're trying to make this work and make the game as successful as they can. And I think it was great being there and being able to have those conversations and get that message. And I think
Yeah,
they should put that message out there, and the best, and as they can, and just sort of let everyone else kind of buy in the same way we were able to being there.
yeah, that's just it. They were there to answer questions and present. And as Matt has already said in the chat, I've put to this. Bill talked about how he loved seeing the memes because it meant people were reading the articles. It meant
Hmm.
people were actually taking on board what he was saying. And uh, as long as you're not being offensive,
Yeah.
Bill can take a joke, and that is what I've taken away from that. Is Bill is just like us. He is just a gamer who is having so much fun with his job. And when I heard him talk about the puzzles, when I heard him talk about the reasons he joined UBS, either he is an Oscar worthy actor or he has genuine passion and drive. And I have nothing but respect for people who put their hearts on their sleeves and put their passion and like put all their passion into their work. I can't be angry at Bill for giving it for doing his best because that's all we ever want for people.
Exactly. And like some of this stuff might not land, right?
Yeah,
Again, unfortunately, apologies, can't talk about it, right? But some of this stuff might not land, and some of it, so it might have a reasonably short shelf life.
there's
But
there's at least
UBS have shown historically they are willing to learn and take feedback and change things as makes the game better. And we can go over a laundry list of things they have done, right? Getting rid of DLCs, making the sort of challenger and clash decks at least two ofs, getting rid of um, mechanically unique promos, um, even
But
things like
we'll get to this when we talk about the stuff that Richard was talking about in his video.
hmm,
Let's just keep on with the conference at the minute. So yeah, we had the build start design. We got to see Attack on Titan stuff. It seems really, really cool. I am really struggling not to talk about it when people are talking about it. So I really hope these spoilers come out soon so we can start talking about it. uh, but then we went on to Zoe's. After a little break, we went on to Zoe's presentation, and yeah, we don't really need to say much. Everyone said it. Zoe stole the show. Her presentation was pure drive and passion. She is so enthusiastic about this job. It is infectious. I had the very lucky opportunity during the meal to be positioned right next to Bill and Zoe, so I got to chat to them about IPs they wanted and stuff like that. And Zoe and I were talking about Overlord. We were talking about other like shonen anime to come in, and then we got chatting about just people versus each other. And I was saying,
mhm.
when you hear about anime versus, it's always shonen character versus shonen character fighting ones. I would love to see a intellectual battle. I would love to see Anna Conchier from Classroom of the Elite taking on Lelouch v Britannia from Code Geass, and Zoe just audibly gasps and started saying, "That's amazing!" And she was already internally designing the challenger decks for those two characters and saying it's perfect and like how you could tell she was already like doing all the marketing and all the card designs and it kind of feels like when we see cards coming up and when we see a really cool card, like when we saw Black Abyss, and everyone just went, "That's so cool! It's gonna go in. It's gonna go in Amajiki. The passion we have for deck building is no isn't even comparable to how much passion Zoe has for designing these cards and the packaging and just making these cards look as good as they do. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, the sort of the reverence she holds for the source material when it comes to Attack on Titan, you could definitely feel that, right? From the way she was talking and the way it comes through in terms of the cards themselves. Like I said, the biggest compliment I could give her and not only her, like the rest of her team, and the job they've done on it is that when they were showing us the cards, like I don't give a shit about Attack on Titan. Let's be shit clear. I've never watched it, probably never will. Like I'm not a particular anime person. Anyone who watches this show knows I'm not really. Um, like I've dabbled a bit here and there, but like I'm not particularly invested in the IP of Attack on Titan. I'm quite a spiky player. I like to win. I like to crush my enemies and see them driven for me. Um, and so I was, obviously quite keen to see the text on the cards. And very quickly, I stopped reading the text
yeah,
and just looked at the art. and that's the biggest compliment I give her. Like, we got all these spoilers, all these cool cards, and what they do, and I'm like, I'm just looking at how pretty they are. Um, yes, Fogo de Chao. It's become a
It
bit of a UVS tradition. It
So
was
looking at the
awesome.
Attack on Titan cards kind of confirmed something to me that I had suspected for a while, and it's prevalent in the demo decks that you'll be seeing coming in stores, is that the style of each card deck is bespoke to each universe. So Attack on Titan has very blocky, chipped sort of like checks and difficulties, which is reminiscent of the wall. If you
Hmm.
look at Godzilla, the ugh, oh, this one hasn't. This one does not have a check or difficulty. The check and difficulties are very big, very like long, very clear because these are kaiju's. They're massive, and it's kind of like the worlds are designed to be bespoke around their worlds, and that is the biggest thing I've kind of taken away now is universes is a bespoke universe game. Every
Hmm.
single set that comes out, from character abilities to design, is kind of designed with how can we not only make cards that represent this world, but make them look like they've come straight out of that world.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, again, it's not just a let's look at what art goes on there. Like, it's Zoe and her team are looking at a full picture, right? Whether that's the fonts that are
We won't
used.
stick too much on this
The,
because if all goes according to plan, we'll have Zoe on Tuesday where we'll be able to go into this in depth.
Mhm.
It's gonna be very very cool. But yeah, Zoe stole the show. No offense to Mike, Bill, and Paul. Zoe just was awe inspiring, and I hadn't realized she'd done things like the webcam Wednesdays before. But yeah, they've got some interviews from there. So if you haven't seen that, go check out Zoe's interviews on there, and you'll get a fraction of what we got. Then we had
Yeah.
lunch. We had a cool little lunch, and we got to ask even more questions, uh, which was very very cool. And then we went on to Mike talking about sales, which was the one I was most excited for going in. I had been very vocal. That's the one I was most excited going in. And as soon as I could, I did what I was said I was going to do. I asked about Europe.
Hmm.
And yeah, Mike was up front with us, and Paul made sure he brought some things up that they tried to get in MCM London, which is very, very cool. It was only because of the price point that they couldn't do MCM London. UK Games Expo is one I brought up because it was happening at the same time. We talked about distribution in Europe because I know all the Europe players watching or hearing about this, I won't stop fighting for you. I know you guys have been struggling since set three, but I will keep on UVS. I will keep any chance I can bringing up that you guys need a revitalization. And hopefully, after talking with Mike, I'm confident that they've heard us and they are trying, and they've got some very cool things in the works.
Yeah, again, this is stuff that obviously I know it sometimes looks like it falls on deaf ears and they don't care about, but like they're well aware of this stuff, right? And
Yeah,
they know, and they are trying. And sometimes it's going to be difficult, especially when working on the continent where you basically get to work with Asmodee or you get to work with Blackfire, who are
which is
just
Asmodee.
Asmodee, and everyone knows that there are quite often issues with working with Asmodee, but they are doing what they can, right? And they aren't the hugest player in the market, right? Like they don't have the biggest muscles to sort of fling around in terms of when it comes to working with these guys. The same way that like a Hasbro slash Wizards would do, or whoever the hell owns the Pokemon company, and whoever heck's like, or Bandai, they don't even have those guys, or whoever Yu-Gi-Oh companies, Konami, I guess.
Yeah, Konami.
Um, but yeah, they don't have the same sort of clout to throw around, but they are certainly trying and doing what they can, and they are well aware of the issues faced, and are always happy to try and work with LGSs on the continent, or whether that's in Oceania or wherever else, to try and help LGSs build their communities and get demo days done and all that sort of stuff. And it's tough, and I think certainly something we didn't necessarily go into too much because it's not really our place or our job. Is the retailer relationship side. And I, as for to the best of my knowledge, they're having a similar sort of conflab with the retailer side to try and work on things from that perspective. But they are well aware that that relationship, and then I guess part of that is the marketing side. They talked about it in terms of muscles they need to build and get working. They're confident in their design and creative muscles, like and sort of their product output. They're improving like the OP. Obviously Josh has come along,
He wasn't ready to
taken
present at
over
the
that.
time, which
Obviously Josh
was
wasn't there,
yeah.
but certainly they're aware the marketing side of it is something they need to work on and get better at. And I take them at their word that they are. So um,
But yeah, and
yeah, we just
as you
sort
were
of need to watch
saying,
this space on it, really.
yeah, I mean, we are a small game, but we are a very significant game. We've just released a
Mm.
video where I was talking to Card Goblin, the single provider for the UK, and it was great to hear from them like how much the universe's game and community has massively impacted them as a business and allowed them to expand because no one was supporting the game, so they've been able to kind of like corner the market. But going back to the summit, it was great to hear that they're going to be going to conventions in Oceania and demoing and trying to get, because Oceania's still got massive potential in players.
Yeah.
It was really cool to hear about the sales, and of course, we knew that tournament had sold out at the warehouse level before it all came out. So as soon as that news dropped, I was ready to go with that video. That's why it seems like I
Hmm.
was very quick because I was kind of like ready to go with that information. I already processed it. The biggest takeaway for me was when Mike posed the question to us: what POP/POS would we use to bring in new players? And it was very interesting hearing everyone's suggestions that were like, "Oh, we could do this as a poster, we could do that," because it's very hard in this game to make a point of sale or a point of promotion that isn't just about the IP.
Yeah.
If you put like a colossal titan into the window, you need to then very clearly spell now in universes, or else someone's going to go, "That's a very cool Attack on Titan thing. I like Attack on Titan." And they're not going to really take it on board. Uh, you need to clearly also spell that you're advertising the cards, not just the IP.
Obviously, I think it was a little sort of like, it was just like one of those kind of, if you've got any ideas, just throw them
Yeah,
at me, and we'll take on board. And I was able to chat with Mike at dinner. And we were just talking about things, and I mentioned the whole issue about challenger decks to him, because that's one of my major beefs I have at the moment. I guess is the way challenger decks are. I
yeah.
think they're not necessarily succeeding as well as they could be, and I think there's a lot of potential there. So I just sort of was spitting some ideas. I mean, again, we're just sort of having a conversation about stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, part of what I took away from the sales thing is that actually things are really good. Like, obviously they want to be succeeding more than they are, but things are healthy and hopefully are just on an upward trajectory, and that's what they're aiming for with everything that's going on. They're just trying to keep the trajectory of our game going upwards, getting more and more players in, more and more players interested in this game, more and more IPs, and just keep going onwards and upwards. And I think they're all of the team at UVS are certainly passionate and invested in that sort of vision. And they just want to bring everyone else along with them, right? Whether that be the content creators, whether that be the community, they want everyone else along for the ride, right? So um,
Yeah.
I think that's what the summit was, is sort of first steps along that path.
I don't think I can do this every few months. I think once a year for like this kind of big thing is very, very cool.
Yeah.
Uh, it it was just great to meet because then after we had the talk with Mike, we had the essentially the content creation aspect
Mm.
where we kind of just all riffed off of each other ideas. Tam put forward that since Levi, there's not been a market guy, which is fair. It's kind of hard for us to market because US singles don't really ship out here, and we have one single shipper. But I'm going to try and do that for us. I've already got a regular time slot set up with Card Goblin where I can keep getting what's going to be restocked and stuff like that. It's not going to be 25 minutes every single time. This was kind of like our first one.
Yeah.
Uh, the big takeaway I got from the input from UVS as people themselves and as a company is they just want to know what people are playing. They want to get in. Everyone knows who we are. Everyone knows who kind of like the top players are. Unless you're David Toom, then you have no idea who the top EU players are. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, it's criminal he put me on that list. I mean, it was literally because I'm one of the only EU players
it's because you were
matched. So,
there. He didn't want to insult you while you were there.
I mean, that
Uh,
would have been fine. I wouldn't have put him in my top 10 like US players, so it's fine.
but yeah, it's great just to be able to highlight other members of the community. And I've already got people lined up for interviews who are playing some fun stuff here at locals. You've got the stuff you did yesterday. I'm going to record some stuff tomorrow. And also, that top 10 video has encouraged the Dobbers to go away and make an actual top 10 EU list,
Hmm.
which is kind of cool. But yeah, that's the kind of. They just want to know more. They want to highlight more what's going on at the local level from us, which to me makes sense. It's what I've always wanted this channel to be, which is where we had, although the mic wasn't great, we had Nathan Squire come on talking about Monomer. Uh, we
Yeah.
we have had people come on before talking about the decks. I am more than happy to sit here and record any person who wants to talk about a deck they're passionate about. I I love hearing about it. I love hearing people's passions for this game. You gotta remember, I started off with playing Dabby, so I love hearing these rogue niche decks that are doing well.
I mean,
So
I'm sure you can get Harry to come on and talk for an hour about Cementos.
yeah.
Um,
Oh,
but like, yeah, I mean,
I think we should get
ultimately,
Harry. If we're gonna do that, we have to get Harry and Akira on at the same time so they can compare notes about Cementos.
but yeah, I mean, that's just like part of it, right? You know, we've all sort of, as content creators, I guess, have hopefully have like our own niches, and you know, we want the game to succeed, and fundamentally, UVS want us to succeed because the better we do, you know, the better for them. The better they do, the better for us. Like again, it should be that symbiotic relationship. So they, you know, they were like, you know, what can we do to help you? And so, you know, part of that, you know, they've started on that perspective. Um, but yeah, it's like I say, it's great, and you know, I think you should, you know, from a content creator perspective, you just sort of got to do what you love, right, and
Yeah,
do what you enjoy doing, or else you just burn out. Um, and fundamentally, you know, this isn't really a job for any of us. Like I know, obviously, it's for Tam, and that's great, and you know, it's fantastic that he can make a living out of you know recording and doing content for this game. Obviously, Dan from Main Deck, you know, he's a content creator as for his living, I believe. Obviously, he does a more a wide breadth of card game stuff rather than just
yeah.
universes.
I think he's working
But
at a game store as well.
mm, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But like, yeah, we all do this out of love, right? And we because you know we get paid for this stuff.
To
Um,
quote the to quote one of the people who probably should have been there that wasn't, we don't know why they weren't. Chris Smith has religiously said that we make content because we're passionate about this game. We don't do it for money. We don't do it for fame. We do it because we love the game,
mhm.
and that has always stuck with me. And Chris Smith's passion has what's led to him like being upset that he wasn't there. And I said to him, "Don't change. Don't lose that passion because it drives this content."
Yeah,
It's a real shame that they weren't there. We have no idea why they weren't. But
well, we don't need to go
yeah,
into that.
we
It's
don't
just
need to
like
go into
really
it.
my
But yeah,
fault
it just
behind the scenes decisions.
from
But
UK
um,
versus to Universities Academy, we love you. Keep up the great content. You guys are amazing.
yeah, um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just again, I think a lot of it just comes down to as virtually everything else does in life ever communication.
Yeah,
That's just it. It's just keeping lines of communication open and things work out for the better.
Exactly. And I
The
mean,
end.
well,
Like,
this would be a nice little segue into the Richard Cruz thing,
mm,
where one of the
aka
times
Richard
one of
number
the times
one.
we did demand communication where we never got it, but we did get some insight during the summit was the banning of a certain webcam player.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
we were talking about, and UVS basically said they were happy for people to complain about it because they knew the truth would come out and people would just end up kind of making.
I don't think that was the message, right? It was more the fact of like their hands were tied.
Yeah,
Like they communicated exactly what they could communicate, and like they knew they were in the right, but it's not like they were just happy for people to shout into the void
no,
and they wanted all that drama because obviously they didn't because it was not a lot of nonsense, right? They weren't,
it's not great for new
I'd imagine
players.
internally they weren't enthralled by the community's reaction to it, but there wasn't anything they could really do.
No, the-
Um, and yeah, like I say, I literally watched Richard's video sort of about half an hour before starting stream. Just gave him a like, gave him a subscribe
yeah, I
as you
watched it
should
this
do.
morning.
Um, and yeah, he's spot on. Like, and it's something I've certainly said before on this channel. Is I think yes, hold people accountable and speak your mind when you don't agree with something. Like, um, but just be an adult about it, right? And just keep your feet grounded in reality of the reality of situations and what people can and can't say and what people can and can't do and what companies can and can't do. Um,
So the way I put it, and you might have seen my comment on that, is uh, I I've always held UVS to a much higher standard than I probably should. When it came to the cross format regionals, I held them to a high standard. I was saying we love this game, we want to play this game, and I asked UVS to be better and to consider their players, and that is my position now when it comes to the community. I mean,
hmm,
it's a case of I've put it into a single soundbite of don't be bitter, be better,
hmm,
because we need to now be holding ourselves and each other to a higher standard. We cannot keep letting the vocal minority keep tarnishing our name as a community. Every time UVS makes a decision, every time UVS makes a post, it is just immediately ridiculed or picked apart or scavenged for anything wrong with it. And if there's nothing wrong with it, people find something wrong with it. Everyone knows I love my memes. I make my memes left, right, and center. I did not join in on the mental load memes for one reason. It was already done to death 2 seconds after the article came out. We don't need 100 memes on it. We get it after like the third. The-
yeah, I mean, I get it. It's just like I'm not saying everyone needs to swallow the blue pill or whatever the hell you want to.
no,
Like, you don't need to sort of kiss the shoe or kiss the ring, right? And absolutely is not the case of everyone that went to the content creator summit where you know sort of kissing ass, right? We weren't there as
hell no.
sort of
No, we're not yes men. We
as
don't.
yes men, right? And that definitely was not the case. I think everyone was sort of asking, at times difficult questions. I think they're holding them to account for stuff and trying to be honest and open about stuff. And I think that's important. Like, I think that has led to when things are handled correctly and done correctly has led to change, right?
Yeah,
Um, like if you look at and again, I UVS games aren't perfect, and
no.
there's a lot of things that I do think they've got wrong, and I've often said when they have, and I've again tried to be respectful and adult about it, but I think give them flowers when they are due. When there are changes to be made and they are correct changes, and there are good reasons to do so, they have made them. Right again, we can go through a launch list of them, getting rid of DLCs, getting rid of mechanic unique promos. Um,
The change back from the rounds to getting rid
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the
The
last
removing
chance.
the draft from organised
Yeah,
play,
last
removing the
chance
points
qualify
from
points.
organised play. We can look at the recent designs, right? When they went with the overhaul of the design changes, obviously not everyone was on board, and there were some things people don't like about it. So now, you know, keywords and keyword traits are now at the top of cards, as you're going to see in
Well, in
Godzilla.
the middle, yeah.
The symbols are bigger and more
Yes.
visible. You know, they are making these changes based on the feedback.
Hold on.
Um,
You have assets. What does that mean?
yeah, for the better. And but you know, things don't happen immediately. Things that happen, you know, overnight. And sometimes, you know, they maybe don't communicate these things as well as they could. And sometimes their hands are tied, right?
Yeah, so I'm
It
just
may be
putting
a
up
case of
I'm just putting,
they
yeah.
took
So
that feedback on the keywords that everyone had at the beginning, and maybe they thought, yeah, this has got it, maybe we should change it. But maybe they couldn't say immediately that that's what they're going to do because they might not be able to for whatever reason. From a design perspective, it may not work. Like, I just think everyone needs to calm down a little bit. Again, just go watch Richard's video. He goes over things better. But yeah, just be better. Like again, if you expect better behavior from like if you expect better behavior from another person, then you should
now
behave that way
yeah, we're
yourself,
not
right?
saying don't fight for the game, don't hold UBS accountable in any way. We're not saying don't do that. We're saying do it right, and the
Yeah,
same
just
with
be a fucking adult,
yeah, and
right?
same with each over in the community. A couple of people commented on Richards, and a couple of people brought it up. If a new player comes into this game, we are the best community for getting that person cards, explaining the rules, getting them into the game because we know we need that new player. Every new player counts. But if that
Yeah,
new player then sees an article drop which they find helpful, goes online and sees that article getting memed and ripped apart and shredded in a vulgar, unconstructive, merciless way, it might give them second thoughts about the game because they just want to, they might have found the article helpful. And
you like imagine picking up someone picking up like a challenger deck from Target or Walmart or the local game store, whatever, just because hey, I like Critical Role or I love Godzilla, and I pick up this up and like, okay, I need to learn some more about this game. Where would you look as a player attached to the internet? Okay, where am I going to go look at? Let's go onto Facebook. God forbid anyone goes onto that Facebook group. Uh, obviously they might find the main site and they might find the unofficial Facebook group, and like I really hope they don't, because it's just a cesspit. And the Discord, the main Discord, for the most part, is totally fine. But there are times when, again, if someone goes into the main Discord and goes into the general channel, or whatever, at the wrong time, they're going to be like, "What the hell have I got myself into?" Yeah, maybe not, right? And
yeah,
that's not what we want. Um, yeah, sure,
we
like
need
be
to
critical, but be critical like an adult. Like,
yeah, you
just
need to
not hard.
be constructively criticize the company, constructively criticize ourselves. I know our first reaction because we are a small community and we love this game is to react with a passionate, emboldened response.
Mm.
But as Richard said, we just need. I hate that it's just popped into my head, but we need to do what I'm trying to get my son to do. Rather than immediately following our knee jerk reaction, we need to stop, take a deep breath, and ask ourselves, is this helpful? And then use our words to communicate the problem.
And just be like Rufus, man. Be excellent to each other.
Yeah,
Like
it's a bit of an old
it's not
reference. I don't think
hard.
the kids are going to get that.
I mean, you should,
He says with
but
the 80s, the early 90s movie thumbnail coming out soon.
that's fine. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
just be better, man. Like it's not difficult. Like I'm not saying kiss the boot. I'm not saying be a suck up here. I'm not saying be a shill.
don't dox
Like
people, don't call
it
people out,
just
don't insult people, don't threaten
it
people.
gets tiring at times.
And
Like
if you have a genuine issue or complaint, just use the
have a fucking
ticketing. There's a
conversation. Like,
ticketing service that you can use to get through that kind of stuff. But let's try and keep our public discourse new player friendly. Let's keep it constructive rather than going, oh, this let's go, let's have a look at the challenge. Oh, the challenge is set having vanilla and French vanilla cards. Why the fuck am I paying $35 for cards that don't do anything and stuff like that? Okay, so like, what kind of new player wants to see that? Why would they invest their money and time in
Yeah,
learning a game where the players are saying the cards aren't worth it? Go,
yeah. Whereas you could just, again, raise a ticket or fire
yeah,
an email off to the team. Like, there's so many other channels to sort of do that constructively. Say, hey, look, I don't think this product is worth my money. Here's why. I think you can make this better,
yeah.
and
And then
just
when you're
fire it
going
off,
into
and
the
just
public group,
just
you can do
yeah,
what Apple did a great example of it. Rather than just complaining about it, he saw that the new Challenger decks are going to feature cards from the main set, and rather than blowing his gasket about it, he just went into the channel, put a screenshot of it, and went, "How do we feel about this?"
mm,
and gave people a forum, but made it understood that yeah, this is where we're going to talk about it. And if a new player sees that, they're like, okay, this is where people actually. But you know, it's kind of like a spoiler warning of this is going to be our raw emotions rather than it's that. And yeah, as Matt says, they are great. I mean,
mm.
I've been talking about it for months. I brought it up with UVS during the summit. We need a Lenoco appreciation day, just one day a year, where
Yeah.
we
If
give.
anyone goes after Lenoco, like they can
Oh
answer to me because that
yeah,
man does too much and is too nice.
we gave that guy a
Um,
cheeky Nando's when he was over here last. We'll probably give him another one if he's here again. No,
yeah.
no one should be going after Lenoco.
I mean, like obviously there is a subtext here, right? And I think people can understand that in that we have obviously seen things as part of the summit, and I think we are aware that they are going to be divisive because there are changes.
But,
Everyone knows there
yeah,
are
but there's at least
changes,
half a dozen reasons why people are going to kick off about it. But
right? And I think it's okay to not like these changes.
yeah,
That's totally okay. That is within your right. But also, just again, if you've got beef with them, be adult about it, or maybe just approach things with an open mind. I'm not saying the game is fundamentally changing hugely, right? I'm not saying we're not. It's no longer UVS. It's like Pokemon Light, whatever. Like it's not. But there are changes, and
and Attack on Titan
obviously,
is going to
when
bring
we
in a
can talk
lot of
about
new
them, we can.
players.
But fundamentally, it's going to be universes. You are going to still be playing universes. That ain't going away.
One of the things we did hear about during the summit was MHA brought in a lot of players very quickly, and then it had a lot of turnover. A lot of
Yeah,
players
a lot of
left the
people
game,
bounce out.
and whether that was the game they didn't understand the game kind of died in their area, or if it was just like not getting the help they needed. Who knows? But if UVS are willing to try and do their stuff and make the game better, then we as a community need to hold ourselves to that kind of higher standards. If UVS wants to hold itself, if we're going to hold UVS to the standard of the best card game, then we need to understand that UVS wants to also hold us as a community to be the community of the best card game out there.
Yeah.
And we need
And
to
and I
be
think
better.
just again, go into it with an open mind, and if it's something you don't like, then don't like it. But
Yeah.
just don't just make everything it's like a toxic cesspit, and that's
If
okay.
if you want to shit on something, that's what DMs are for. There's more than enough
Yeah.
groups out there. There's more than enough people to chat about that will happily listen to your feelings. But Attack on Titan is going to bring in another big wave of players. Will they be
And
the
they
best?
just want to make it sticky, right? And
Yeah.
that's the goal is to give people that intro to the game and get them to stick with the game and enjoy it and discover and understand this game we all love and the same way we all do. And like we all went through that hump. We all went through that learning curve, and we came out the other side. But there is a lot of players that did not, and a lot of players that bounce out, and they want to
That's
try and solve that problem, whether that be marketing, whether that be supporting more LGS side things to allow them to support the game, whether that be the game learning and sort of intro experience. They're doing a lot of these things to try and onboard players and keep them on
yeah.
board. And I
Uh,
think that is a valuable goal to be aiming for. And in order to do that, there has to be changes,
yeah.
right?
Matt's just
And
put
if
something
you don't
saying
innovate, you die.
yeah. Matt's just put something don't yuck their yum. But for me, it's about reducing the ick. For those who are
Just
unaware, the ick is where one person in a conversation or one person in interaction will hear something or see something and immediately sort of switch to the person going, "Nope, I don't want to be part of this anymore." And that's what we want to do with this game now. UVS wants to reduce it by making sure demos are simpler, that people are interested in the game before they get exposed to all the difficulties of the game. They don't want to reduce the difficulty of the game. They want to make sure that when people are onboarding, they aren't just are bombarded with information, which does make sense.
yeah,
Then, product wise, they want to make sure that they don't get the ick from the cards. They want to make sure the cards are easy and clear to read. They want to make sure the cards do what they say. They want to make sure the cards are understandable. And we did bring up printing errors, and it sounds like the new quality control guys have got brought in some new tools that from Attack on Titan that are going to almost clear it up completely. But human error still exists.
yeah.
Uh,
Again, it's not like they're unaware of these
no,
things, right? They are. They hate them probably even more than we do as players, right? Because
it makes them look
they look at it and they
unprofessional, and
think,
they don't want that. They want to be the biggest card game. But
yeah.
the
So
biggest ick
again,
that
they're just all parts of the business, parts of the game, part of the company they're working on, and all of these things are going to be continually a work in progress. They're continually trying to learn and better, but I think it's a case of us as players, us as a community, just sort of need to let them.
yeah, the
Um,
biggest ick that UVS cannot control is us. We are the biggest wild factor in new players because, as UVS said, as Richard Cruz said in the chamber video, we are the nicest community to other players that are learning, that are new. We are, we're kind of like a family in the aspect that we rip on each other, if especially if players are well known, but we give the company no leeway, and it's understandable. Like enough has gone down in the past that we there are a significant amount of trust issues. But
yes, it's okay to be cynical. It's
yeah,
okay to maybe not trust them, but again, just be an adult about it. Don't be a
yeah.
dick.
I mean,
Like this.
we're so quick to point out the company's flaws and not hype up the good things the company has done. And I'm not I'm more responsible in this than most people because when the company does something good and it's NA only, the first thing I'm doing is complaining, not going, "Oh, that's really cool that Vegas got a Mirio promo." It's like, it sucks. We'll never see it. Is my immediate response, and I'm going to
Yeah,
try and
and
work on myself.
and just to be clear, I think everyone knows that the only reason the UK Versus got invited to the Content Creator Summit is so that Brett didn't whinge on every single Discord that it was a US only thing.
I mean, that's the reason I got invited. You got invited because coattails. Oh,
Yeah,
you were very adamantly pointing out to people that you show up and talk for 2 hours, and then I go away and do everything.
yeah, I'm well aware of this. It's fine.
yeah, but yes, that's the biggest.
I'm pretty faced. It's okay.
You're the pretty face that draws everyone in. But yeah, so we're not saying be yes man. I would never condone being a yes man. I would say but we need to start giving the company their dues. When they do something good, we
Just
need
cut them
to
a bit of slack.
yeah, we
Like,
need to just
and
literally
just
go.
again, I'm not again. If you can be critical, you can be cynical. The all are fine. Just 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 don't be a dick.
Yeah,
Easy.
golden rule. Don't. That's the golden rule of Discord. That's the golden rule of life. Don't be a dick. Uh, the company does and has done good things in the past. We heard about a few things that they've done for the community that I don't know if we can talk about in terms of like unofficial events and stuff like that. Uh, we
Probably not.
know that they're working. They are trying. I mean, they're going to a convention in Oceania, which they don't need to do. They're working hard to get players in. They're working hard to keep them, but we are the wild factor.
Yeah,
Us
we're
as
part
the
of that equation, right?
yeah,
And you want them, and yeah, I think there are times when that claim of we're the best community in gaming, we don't necessarily live up to that kind of title, and I think it's time the community sort of did.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying on Richard's comments. That's what I've been saying
Yeah.
to him when I've chatted to him. It's time to take our voice back from the vocal minority. Now, I'm
Hmm.
not saying that those people who are shouting at them are wrong, but I'm saying they shouldn't be the only voice. It should not just be the same six people always shouting the sky is falling. This is the worst case scenario. So you need to be more vocal with your positivity. I trust me. I know it's scary for the whip of the backlash. I know that you may not like to see or get be worried about what's going to come back from it, but if you've got something positive to say about this company, don't be scared to say it. I'm going to
Give
start. I'm
like
going to
give
start
people
doing it.
their flowers when they're due, right? And that's
Yeah,
always just the thing. It's like, just give people their
but
flowers. Like,
if the cynical people are the only voices that are out there, the company can't hear what they're doing right. The new players can't hear what they're doing right. And to put the most dramatic spin on it, we'll go to Winston Churchill with the only thing that evil required. The only thing that evil needs to win is for good men to do nothing. So if the company's doing good things and you like changes, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. And if you need some backup, tag me. I You can talk to Tam, you can talk to Paul, you can talk to anyone that I've watched streams or had conversations with. I can slide into any side of an argument and argue my ass off. I am your
mhm.
biggest hater or your biggest supporter, depending on that. And if anyone in this community needs some backup, tag me. I'm coming in, even if I don't believe what I'm saying. I'll have your back if it's a positive thing. Yeah, Winston Churchill was a. I mean, Winston Churchill. I'm not going to say Winston Churchill was a boss. He was an alcoholic wife beater. But yeah,
No, Winston Churchill was like a horrific
yeah.
person. He was a
Winston
massive
Churchill.
racist and caused
He was
genocide. But
conservative. What
like,
do you expect? But
that's true. I
he
mean,
had a good speechwriter.
yeah, he was a horrific
He
person.
was.
But let's not get into a history lesson here. Um,
That's not. Yeah. This is neither the time nor the place for a British prime minister. Have we had a decent British prime minister? Because the answer is not a lot.
um,
But yeah, I just
but
wanted to get for that, and I've got the thing on here about constructive criticism, because a lot of people don't actually know how to give constructive criticism. They think they do, but I just wanted to convey it in a way that is a nice, simple kind of soundbite that people can remember, which is "Don't be bitter, be better," which I think kind of rolls off the tongue. Uh, I like it because it's time to let go of our resentment of the past. Don't for,
yeah,
you don't have to forget it, but it's about time we forgive. This company is trying so hard, and that's something that we all took away. And I know it's something that I did convey. It is something that this company needs to show more. They need to show this humanized version and of each person. Hopefully, interviews with content creators will help do that. But we need to move on. We need to move on. We need to let go of this hate in our heart because hate is for the weak, and we are strong players. We have put up with so much to get to this point, and we need to now be looking to the future ourselves. I do not want this game to go away. I absolutely love this game. I wish I'd found it sooner. So anything I can do to bring in new players now, I will, because I want this game to be the best in the world.
yeah.
I want it to get there. Uh,
I think that about covers everything,
yeah,
right? In terms of
I don't think we can top that in all
no.
honesty.
So yeah, hopefully on Tuesday we should have a special guest. Hopefully Zoe can still join us. Obviously,
I'll double check tomorrow during my last year's qualifier. My local qualifier. I've asked if there's anything in particular she wants to cover. Apparently, she might be making us a little asset pack, which would be really cool. Haven't got around to designing the card yet because I've been so busy editing. The card art is done. It got done in Vegas, and myself and Jesus are very happy to be made into cards. uh, uh, yeah, Josie did an amazing job on these. Yes, Keenan, your prizes should be with David Toombs because Tam was completely fully packed. So for those of you that are here, do check out our YouTube. I'm working very hard to get it up to scratch. Uh, check out all the other content creator stuff on there. I hope you did enjoy here. It's kind of like a Brennan Lee Mulligan sort of style we've gone for here of but be positive, follow the rules, but don't take any shit kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go get some sleep because I am absolutely knackered, and I've got I've got my qualifiers tomorrow. So I'll let Richard give us the final words.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone watching along on Twitch. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. Click and like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Click the buttons. Always really helps the channel. Really appreciated. And yeah, happy Pride, everyone. And yeah, we'll catch you all on the next one.
Yeah, for those that may have seen, we've got the Pride logo in the corner now. We've got Pride on the YouTube. I just haven't updated the Twitch yet. But yeah, it's Pride Month. Whether you're an ally or a member of the LGBTQ community, you're always welcome here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And yeah, we'll catch you all the next one. Much love.